Hello, and today we're going to continue with Kingsguard, and it's raining right now, so where I'm at right now, so you can have to excuse that. Alright, so we covered the three characters, we covered the history of everything but the Great Wall, so I'm going to go ahead and cover this. Tensions were still high even at the end of the last war. Thousands of humans and beastmen were enraged at the abruptness of its end. There was no glory gained, and as many began to realize that who their loved ones would be buried while their killers lived free. It would only be a matter of time before the war would resurrect once again. Yet even as decades passed, it did not. During the last war, a quick quake a great quake shook the entire world from the settling in the dust, and a great wall appeared, extended from sea to sea, and separated the three nations from one another. Its sheer size and height made climbing over fatal, and for many years the world remained segregated. Eventually, people began to tunnel through, inch by inch, foot by foot, and the nations were eventually once again connected. With the passage of trade, with the passing of time, trade and travel began again between the nations, but kept under strict regulations that eventually gave rise to illegal activities such as smuggling and trafficking. While there were still some, but there were still many with bitter resentments towards other nations. So long as the wall still stands, the world will know peace, at least as many believed. Okay, so we covered everything concerning the lore section here. You know, I'm not gonna show the gallery because there's some not safe for images. There's, like I said, it's raining where I'm at right now, so I might decide to turn the volume up a little bit. It's raining really heavy. You stood near your father, who sat on the throne, his fingers lightly tapped in the arms and rhythm as though he was the more nervous one. You eyed everyone else who was currently in the room, patiently awaiting for the coronation to begin. Yasira and Leandros waited at the bottom of the stairs, with about 2 dozen of your soldiers lined up like a human wall. They nodded at your father that everyone was in place and took a quick glance at you as well. On the other side of the wall was Rabel's, arms crossed and toe tapping. He seemed to be avoiding your gaze. It was likely because of the talk he and Leandros had with your father just before arriving into the throne room. You raised, you raised a guess that as to what it was about, or likely who it was about. Your aunt and uncle stood at the far right side of the room. They smiled and discreetly waved towards you. Your father stood and commanded the guards to open the doors. Slowly the nobles, accompanied by their escort, shuffled into the room. You swallowed hard, hoping to sate an annoying itch forming in your throat. It grew more irritating as the nobles gathered, so you forced a mute cough. You brought your hands up to your neck and scratched. It didn't help. Even if you wanted to ignore it, you couldn't. It was far too vexing. You closed your eyes and hoped to wait it out. A strange aroma then began to bother your nose. It was a pungent scent like that of rotting trash masked by a large spritz of lavender perfume. As more of the nobles gathered in, it became apparent where it was wafting in from. Obviously, some of those in the crowd might have skipped far too many baths. Once everyone was in, the doors were closed and the priest began his speech. Several more moments passed and you felt more unsettled than usual. The smell became more pungent with time. You questioned if some animal had died right outside. Your throat felt swiveled and dried. Your mouth no longer produced saliva to even swallow, and the irritation in your throat now burned. You stifled multiple coughs. It might have been something that you ate, or perhaps you just caught someone's cold. A twist of discomfort ravaged your stomach, and a wave of muggy heat crashed upon your being. It was if this was some side effect from being in that pool of light for so long, someone was going to get it for not pulling you out sooner. Either way, you wanted it, or the coronation just ended. The high priest's voice echoed magnificently in the room, but to you it sounded dull and lifeless. Caden. Your attention was transfixed on the curve of marble in the floor and evoked images of the beach at sunset. The numbers below looked slightly puzzled. King Caden. Your father snapped you back from your stupor. It was your cue, and you stepped forward to stand by his side. The high priest continued his speech. Hey, are you feeling alright? You seem a bit out of it. Your father spoke in hushed tones without turning his head. You did the same to avoid drawing attention. I'm okay. This cloak is just making me a little uncomfortable right now. Hold on for just a little longer. Once the priest is done and we swap crowns, you can take it off. You hoped it wouldn't take too long. The high priest seemed to lengthen his speech for effect, and you found yourself tapping your feet. Thankfully, they were hidden behind the cloak. You hoped it would be over soon. Your legs began to shake and your knees showed signs of buckling. Now we pass the burning flame of our nation from one to another who now will lead us to glory. The priest turned around to face the two of you. Who now will lead our great nation? Your father got down on one knee and bowed his head low. Despite all this being rehearsed and part tradition, it was still another rare chance for you to see your father in a humble position. Just as quickly, the priest stepped forward and gently lifted the crown from your father's head. Seeing him without the decoration was like seeing a cat shaved of all its fur. It was almost unnatural. Even Leandro seemed to be unnerved by the sight. Though as you glanced more closely, you noticed he was a bit stiffer than usual. Actually, he wasn't even watching you or your father. No, his eyes were focused intently on the crowd, his hands tense on the hilt of his blade as though he were about to draw it. Something wasn't right. It was the same for Casiro and Ramos. Both of them had an intense glare in their eyes and looked ready to jump forward into the crowd at a moment's notice. Several people were moving around within the crowd silently, but you could see several nobles being pushed out of their path. Who now will ensure that we thrive into the mall? As the priest walked over towards you with the crown in your hands, you bowed your head low and as well, keeping an eye on the crown head. The light silver coronet upon your head was lifted up and then replaced with a heavy golden crown. Slowly you rose. There was only one we have deemed fit to bear this burden. I present to you King Caden Lawson. You couldn't hear the footsteps anymore. The sounds of clapping echoed through the hall massive. Your heart stopped beating for a second and you felt a sudden emptiness. Leandro and Casiro had vanished from your view. A wave of unsettling heat swept through the room, and the hairs on your arms stood on end. Dark purplish vapors rose up from where the mass of nobles stood. It slithered along the floors and crawled up the walls. Within seconds, the entire room was surrounded in a hazy mist. You looked around frantically. The mist started to obscure your view, and soon you couldn't see but a few feet ahead of you. Father. He stayed put, focused ahead where the nobles were, his eyes wide as though he had seen a ghost. You couldn't make out he was staring at, but you did notice movement ahead of you swirling about in the mysterious fog. Father. Even when you screamed louder, he still didn't turn. He shook his head, eyes full of fright, as his mouth opened in horror. Then you heard it. A piercing scream from the dark, high pitched and blood curdling. Several more voices joined in, collecting together in dissonance, crescendoing into a cacophony of shrieks and wails. The sound of blades slicing through the air, tearing cloth, and stomping feet gave you all the clues you needed to hear. The smoke wasn't anything more than the smoke wasn't anything more than a cover. The assassins had arrived. The mist parted for just a moment, giving you enough time to see the chaos below you. The nobles scattered around like ants, bumping and pushing into each other. They were being blindly slaughtered, all of them defenseless as their escorts turned on them, waving their swords around like maniacs. At least 2 dozen nobles had collapsed to the floor, half of them dead, the other half tripping over those same lifeless bodies. No. You eyed the side of the room, hoping to see Marilyn and Esther, but all you could see was more smoke. A malevolent voice resonated through the room. Its temper was so loud that the windows shattered and small creaks appeared in the marble pillars. Even your bones felt as though they were about to snap. It wasn't from the mouth of any living being, nor not even a beastman was capable of such a tone. Your head felt full and stuffed as though someone had over-injected malice into your skull. A pus-like substance bubbled out of your ears and dirtied your clothes. At first a voice sounded like nonsense, incoherent chanting, but through the rambling you caught meaning, enlightenment. Kill. Destroy. The voice grew louder and a strange compulsion fell over you, the need to draw your blade and bury it deep into the heart of another. Your father was the one who made things this way, forced you into this. He was the reason for everything wrong in your life. He had to pay for this, and there was no other option. You looked at your pitiful father. He was defenseless, and your blade was much too clean. You reached for the blade at your side and straggled forward. He was easily within reach. It would take not but a second. No, it had to last longer than that. Minutes, hours, days. You couldn't make it last as long as possible. He would suffer for an eternity. As your hand brushed the handle of your blade, a burning sensation ran up your arm. You tripped over your own club, plummeted to the floor, and rolled down the stairs. A furnace blazed from inside you, trailing from your head, through your heart, and up to your brain. It was almost unbearable, but the pain didn't matter right now. Caden, you're alright? Say something. Your father leaned down near you. His hand gripped your shoulders as he brought you up and turned you to face him. No words came out, only ragged breaths. I can't understand what you're saying. Damn it. You must get you out of here. Leandros. The enchanting voice grew louder. Its words swirled together in a compulsion to kill came back twicefold. Kill. I have to. What are you talking about? Your vision blurred. It wouldn't be long before your eardrums burst and your brain melted within your skull. It was now within range. You just had to ignore this pain. Once more, you gripped the handle of your sword, and another surge of heat coursed through your veins. The pain you were feeling suddenly subsided, or at least dulled. The voice that once pounded at your skull now felt like a distant echo, and your eyes adjusted ever so slightly to the smoke. You stared at your father. No longer did you feel the need to end his life so early. We failed, didn't we? Caden, you must never give up, even when all seemed lost. We will make it through this. He didn't sound convinced in his own words. Yesterday you saw him for the first time as a frail, grieving man, haunted by his mistakes. Now you saw him terrified, his lips quivering and hands shaking. But even if his own advice didn't shake his fear, he was right. There was no time to give in. Leandros, where the hell are you? The royal guards below were doing their best that they could to hold back the encroaching chaos, but both the nobles trapped below, and their assailants were being pushed back for getting any closer. The lion kicked back an assassin before breaking away from the blockade to join you. Gaten, help him up. We need to get moving. Take my hand, Caden. Leandros pulled you up to your feet and held you close. Thank you. I think I can stand on my own now. Are you sure? I can kill you if need be. I'm good. Londos hesitantly let go of you, and while you had to catch yourself, you were standing just fine. The unknown voice changed tone once more. You couldn't understand the words as clearly as before, but as the assassins all halted their attack on the nobles and turned their attentions upwards towards the throne, you knew who their new targets were. They're coming. As if in one mind, the assassins all pulled forward, pulsing each other as they tried to reach you and your father. Your own soldiers braced for the rust. They packed themselves tightly together, planted their feet, and raised their seats. The only openings were from tiny slits in the barricade that they poked their swords through. The killers below impaled themselves, but it did little to stop them from continuing their path. Hold tight. Do not let them pass. Die! A long assassin hacked his way through a small opening and charged forward up the stairs. Londos raised his blade and immediately moved himself in front of you and your father. No, you don't. Ramos was in from the side, slamming into the soldier and twisted his arm until he dropped his weapon. Ronald punched him 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and the soldier fell to his knees. With one final hit to the killer's face, he was sent flying back down the stairs, where a soldier at the bottom brought a sword to his neck. Now, Ramos, what are they still doing here? If they aren't going to fight, get them out of the way. The soldiers below became overwhelmed as the enemy doubled their efforts. Their strength overpowered your guards. It pushes them even further back up the stairs. The wall of soldiers that separated you from the maddening chaos below was about to break. It would only be seconds before the full assault of the attackers would rush you. Caden, we need to get you out of here. Can you walk? You straggled forward a few steps as Tess nodded your head. Marilyn and Esther have their ship waiting in the harbor. We will use that to escape. No, take Caden and flee. I'm staying behind. What? No, Caden, this is the one time I will not tolerate your disobedience. I am your father and your king, and you will listen to what I say. I never run away and won't now. They will not succeed in whatever plan they are plotting. Your Majesty, if they get to Leondos, keep Caden safe, please. Cassie will fall back. Your father danced off. You don't know where Casiro was quick to listen and ran after him. He took a step forward to follow, and Leondos pulled back. Let go. Caden, listen to me. Right now we need to get you to safety. Leondos, let go of me right now. He struggled in Leondos' grasp, but he held you even tighter. I won't lose you. Leondos gripped both of your shoulders and turned you towards him. It's not just my duty to protect you. I have to protect you. Please listen. Leondos' eyes welled with tears. But as you looked back at him, your father was still getting further and further away. The soldiers below started to climb their stairs, being pushed back step by step until they were just a few strides away. What is he still doing here, Leo? Leondos slightly released his grip on you enough for you to make an escape. Alright, so we reached a big choice. Whoever we pick will be with them throughout the whole story. So, right now, I'm going to pick Ramos. We're going to do Ramos. Yeah, eventually, I might go to Castillo and Leondo's last, but for right now, I'm just going to do Ramos. And even when we get caught up with Ramos' route, it may be a while until I get back to Kingsguard because I want to do some other VNs. So it'll be a long time until we get to Castillo and Leandros, but right now I'm just gonna do Ramos. It was dangerous, reckless, and irresponsible, not to mention stupid. To leap right into the fray, complete insanity. But the fastest way out of the castle was through the throne room. doors as the other end of the home. They won't be able to hold them back for much longer. The blockade became overwhelmed and the assailants swarmed forward. He had little time to act and less time to think. Your father ran through the east doors, escaping further into the castle, and Kishiro chased after him. It was now your turn to move, and you wiggled further out of Leonidas' grasp. Gaten. He pushed him away and ran, not knowing what else to do or where to go. Leonidas reached out and gripped onto your rope in hopes to pull you back. The Senate, they silent, keeping it in place, gave little resistance as it popped off, unraveling the cloak and setting you free. He was left gripping the thick fabric as he leaped off the stairs and soared through the air. The pandemonium seemed to move at a snail's pace as he hovered above. You spied an open area amidst the turmoil and planned your descent there. 1, 2, 3. The assassins were the perfect stepping stones as you played leapfrog off their heads. You came down in a row and landed right where you expected. On top of the stairs, Donald yelled your name once again, his roar almost engulfing the screams of the terrified nobles. There was no way he could reach you from here, and there was no turning back. You would have to make it on your own until he could catch up. You weren't the only one who planned to leave the room, though as he swerved through the crowd to reach for the door, the general consensus was that as well. Before you had even crossed half of the room, the nobles began to cluster together and you became trapped in the middle of the living mass. Like a fly caught in a web, you couldn't move. Everyone was racing toward the door and you were forced to follow along. The door groaned and the hinges creaked as the battering ram of people slammed into it. You didn't know who in the crowd had it worse. Those in the front were pressed into the door and were unable to even open it. The unlucky ones in the back impatiently scrambled to get away from the assassins, and those in the middle were stuck at the mercy of both sides. Finally, the doors burst open, the throng of nobles piled through the narrow passage. Like a wave rushing in during high tide, you were swept away and out of the castle. You couldn't tell where you were going, even if you did, you didn't have control. The aristocrats, lords, and nobles were shoulder to shoulder, pushing each other out of the way as they fought to leave. A few were lost underneath the stampede. You had to be sure that wouldn't happen to you. It took considerable effort, but finally you managed to wiggle your way to the edges of the mass. You turned to watch the horde skitter away like a plague of rats. After a few moments, you caught your breath and were ready to get moving. You didn't care where, just some place far away. There were a few places that you could consider safe in Havana, and as much as you wished it weren't so, the castle was just not one of them at the moment. How dare you lock us in like that? You turned to find a man in torn clothing pointing at you. His hair was heavily disheveled and his face was bruised and bloody. He sauntered towards you, eyes glaring and brow furrowed. He didn't once let his fingers stop pointing. It was Lord Bennett, the noble from a few nights ago. Sure enough, his daughter was lingering closely behind. Alice, or was it Agatha? You couldn't really remember. She fell to her hands and knees. Her entire body was shaking and tears were streaming down her face. You won't get away with this, I'll kill you. You hadn't realized that Bennett has already gotten so close. He rushed forward and pounced on you, tackling you down to the floor. He was heavy, and you couldn't get him off of you. You eyed him, and he spat in your face as he started to scream. She's gone, you killed her. The man brought his hands around your neck and squeezed. You gasped as he tried to breathe, but it was like drawing air through a pinhole. It wasn't enough to embarrass us, you had to go further, didn't you? And to think I was to marry away my daughter, a devil child like you. So, Your vision went hazy. Everything seemed to blur together. Your eyes felt like they were about to bulge out of their sockets. You struggled to reach for the sword at your side, but he kept your arms pinned down as he straddled you. There was no way you could push him off with how weak you were. Tears dripped from his eyes and splattered onto your face, while the snot from his nose rivered over his lips and down his chin. Why was he crying? He wasn't the one about to die. He gasped like a fish out of water and struggled even more. You couldn't go out this way, not like this. He squeezed even harder, and you were sure that your neck was about to snap. Your heart began to beat slower any moment now. You knew you would pass out and that would be the end. Please, stop. You could only mouth the words as all that came out was anguished groans. The grip around your neck loosened. You breathed in deeply as fresh air rushed into your lungs. You can't do it. You could only hear the faintest of sounds. I can't do it. Damn it, why can't I do it? Your vision began to sharpen, and the familiar sound of the city became clearer. You deserve this for what you did to Angela, for what you did to Gavin. Gavin, come back to me. The man crumbled. He convulsed, limpered over to the side and lost his breath. Even after that, he still screamed, still cried. It was almost unreal to watch a grown man reduced to such a state. He was defeated, and yet he didn't even do anything. Gavin, come back. Gavin, come back. Gavin, come back. Gavin. He muttered constantly under his breath, mind lost and will broken. It wasn't that hard to guess, just what he had witnessed back in the throne room. At least a dozen of the nobles were slaughtered. Gavin must have been one of them. Father, Angela scurried on the ground, fleeing from an assassin with her axe. Ah! She screamed as the axe split the earth, nearly missing her by a hair. The impact was strong enough to shake the ground even from where you were. Swords in the stone and wood in the street flew everywhere, pelting Angela, even traveling to you and her father. Father, help me please. Gavin, come back. Gavin, come back. Gavin, come back. Burnett was still struck in his stupor, unable to even listen to the cries of his daughter. He tried to push him off, but he was unmovable. He was pinned to the ground with no way of escaping, no way to even help the poor girl. Father, somebody help me, please. Gavin, come back. Ah! The axe missed her again as he crawled away on her hands and knees, but the assassin managed to yank her back by the hair. Father! Father! No, I don't want to die. Damn it, get off of me. He pushed even harder to get Burnett's body off, but still he wouldn't budge. What are you doing? Step out of it, or your daughter's going to die. He wriggled around and managed to get your hand loose. He took it up and slapped it clean across his face. Blood, saliva, leftover breath shot out of his mouth, and he shook ever so slightly. His ceaseless mumbling stopped. No, no, no! Angela, Angela, Angela! Yeah. Burnett stepped on your gut as he pulled himself off of you. Leave her alone. Leave my daughter alone. Burnett ran with all his might, hurling his body into the assassin and releasing Angela from his grip. You struggled to stand, doing your best to ignore the pain. While Burnett brawled with the assassin, you looked around for a place to hide. Anywhere was fine at this point, just not here. You limped away, taking the road down out of the gold district. You turned back only once. Burnett and Angela were both knocked to the ground, and the assassin held his axe again once more high over his head. You ran, away from the horror, away from the danger, away from the screams. the chaos had managed to seep down from the castle into the heart of the city. Hundreds screamed and fled in terror. What was happening in the city was unbelievable. Your own knights, who swore an oath of allegiance and chivalry, turned their blades against the people they were meant to protect. What had gone wrong? Was this really an assassination, or was it much more than that? It almost seemed like this was a cue for the knights turning on you and your father. What had the two of you done wrong to betray their trust? Were they being paid for this? Was there anyone here you could trust? Despite a baker you frequently visited often, the windows were broken, the sign above his door limped. Speaking of the door, there wasn't even one anymore. Mr. Holloway walked out with a heavy limp and leaned against the wall outside his shop. His white apron was always stained with dough and flour, but now it was a deep crimson. In one hand he gripped tightly onto a butter knife dripping with blood. Nathan. He reached out a hand as if to expect assistance. Something moved from within his shop and didn't want to wait to find out what it was. Down the alley you fled, uncaring where it led to, so long as it was safe. Just how far had you gone? Was there any point in running anymore? It seemed as though nowhere was truly safe. At some point, they would find you. If you were confident with your skills with a blade, you wouldn't be able to defend yourself forever. Death. Treated poets. Ahead of you was one of your knights, his sword drawn and bloody. A malevolent aura surrounding him creeped through the narrow alley. A foul stench followed soon after. Stay. Die. You turn around, and at the other end was another waiting for you. Bleed. Die. They crept forward, chatting in unison. Their hollow voices were as cold as the blades that grated against the ground. Stay back. You looked around for some hidden pathway that you knew did not exist. The only exits were blocked and the assassin quickened their pace. Your only grace was that within these tight spaces they would be unable to swing their swords forward, but the fact that they were beastmen meant little. Given their size, they could probably take you out with a single punch or kick. Death. Fuck. Both beastmen charged forward and brought their blades up. You thrust yourself against the wall and just narrowly missed their attacks. There was just enough space for you to squeeze past one of them, and you took advantage of the opening. The smell grew even more pungent as you buzzed past the assassin that you nearly gagged. You ducked as he snarled and tried to bite your neck. Before you ran away, you stomped down on his Achilles tendon, and the assassin toppled forward. You wouldn't be getting back up for a while. With the way now clear, you move ahead, running harder than you ever had in your life. The alleyway will open up into the main street, and you dash forward. It should have been an opening at least, but you felt as though you smacked face first into a brick wall. You rubbed your forehead to try to dull the pain squinted through one eye. It wasn't a wall at all. Whoever you bumped into didn't buzz and ends. You imagine they probably didn't feel very much at all as well. As the pain began to subside, you backed up, looked over the man, and recognized him immediately. Standing before you was a solid mass of beastman muscle, whereas you knew him Ramos. The hell, I think it's funny to hit me when my back is turned, eh? He turned around, face squints into an angry scowl that simmers down his spine. He glanced downwards at you, then brought his face near inches from yours while rubbing his chin and thought, well, look at me. Looks like I found you. You were still in flight mode, ready to leave at a moment's notice. Hey, where the hell do you think you're going? Before you could leave his thick hands grabbed your shoulders and kept you put. No, let go of me. You squirmed to let go of his reach. You had enough of being grabbed and held against your will. What the hell? We relax already? Stop already. Ramos pushed you back towards the wall and then closed the distance. You flinch, expecting him to hurt you, but after waiting a few moments, you open your eyes and stare back at him. His face was so close to yours that you couldn't help but stare into his eyes. Somehow they were comforting, and you finally settled down. You're done. You nodded. Man, I can see why Leo's always saying about how tough it can be to handle you. You know that was a ballsy stunt you pulled back there, leaping right into the middle of a battlefield. You got a death wish or something. I just did what I thought was best. Didn't look like it. When you took that jump, all I saw was a flying bag of meat being thrown to the wolves. Though I do have to admit, it was pretty cool what you did, stepping on those assassins like that was gutsy. Of course, Leo would have to disagree. Shit, he was so stunned, I thought his fur would turn gray. Well, as you can see, I'm fine. Now I have to get going. Hold up. You're forgetting something here. Your opponent being your bodyguard, and guard your body I will. I'm going to make sure I get you back to him. If you ever hear on your body, just the way it was when you woke up this morning. You're a walking 2-ton bag of gold coins, and there's no way in hell I'm letting you get away. There are dozens of people dying in the streets right now. I just watched. And the last person you need to be worrying about right now. On the contrary, to me, you're the only one I care about right now. Well, because I'm a walking bag of coins? Exactly. How could you even be thinking that right now? As a kid, there will come a time when you will have to make a difficult choice. Generally, it comes down to two options. You or the world. The world rarely gives back, so I'll take the former over the latter. Saving all these people don't do much for me, but protecting you nets me a large sum of coin to set me for life. That's a loathsome way to think about life. I can't stop to help every single person crossing my path that is even more to say. I'm a traveler, and I can't live without some change in my pockets. It's how the world works, and it's how I live. Anyways, what the hell were you working so hard for? I have to say that it actually kind of hurt when you bumped into me. Your mind was so rattled that you had almost forgotten what you were doing in the first place. Right, those assassins were chasing after me. Where? I don't know where I just ran away from them. I can only hope I lost them. I wouldn't be too sure. The knights, or worse yet, the assassins piled their way out from the alleyway behind you. Without thought, you dashed behind Ramos, hoping they wouldn't notice you. He was more skilled at fighting anyway. A few armored men would pose no problem to him. It was his job, after all, and if he were to take them down, not only would it solve the problem of them chasing you, but they wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else. You must have pissed off a lot of them. What did you do? Steal their honey roll? Seriously? Best it was those were some ladies chasing after you. How can you be joking at a time like this? One of the assassins yelled fiercely, chanting his similar mantra of destruction, blood, and your inevitable death. He charged forward, attempting to lob off Williams' head, but the rhino was quick to bring up his arms to deflect the attack. Williams merely turned and diverted the blade with his arms, and it flew off into the distance, whirling around like some deadly bat with razor wings. With his size and mass, you hadn't expected him to move so fast, and neither did his opponent. He had seen him fight before. Well, at a distance, it always looked like he was toying with his foes. You caught a quick glance at the rhino's face. He wasn't smiling anymore. What you saw was complete focus. He wasn't taking any chances. Without a second thought, Ray was made a fist and launched it straight at the knight before he could retreat. The knight went flying back and crashed into a stop wall. Alright, which one of you motherfuckers is next? He backed off slowly and carefully as Rainbows charged after the remaining knights. You were thankful that you had one to Ramos when you did, you wouldn't have stood a chance against these foes. Ramos was using all his might to fend off their attacks. They managed to go toe-to-toe with them. He questioned just what kind of training they were doing to get that much power behind their swings. Sweat dripped off of Ramos, and you could see that he was already panting. If he didn't wrap this up quickly, then there was no telling when they would get in for a killing blow. You reach for the sword at your side. Don't even think about it. Stay back and let me handle it. I'll be there in a moment. He was trying to save face. It was already far too late. Never before had you seen him look so beat. He was likely humiliated by it. He came back, throwing his punches twice as hard and not giving the enemy a moment of rest. Their armor gave little protection. It was as if made from parchment with each blow. After he was finished, you knew it would likely be next to impossible to remove or even repair. The last man standing finally fell over, and Ramos walked away the winner with only blood dripping from his bruised knuckles. It appeared safe, so he walked forward for a better look at the chaos. The whiner was breathing heavily, trying to catch his breath. He had the look in his eyes that his mind was still on the fight. You don't say anything. Once his breathing mellowed, he closed his eyes for a few moments, breathed in, then out, and opened his eyes. Fuck. I don't know where those guys come from, but that was intense. Were those your elite knights or something? Just what were those wimpy ones I fought just a few hours ago at the entrance? We wouldn't be in this mess if they were my knights. They obviously just stolen our armor. Knew I should have ignored those two at the entrance. Wouldn't have been so out of breath. Those two. Do you mean Bennett and something? Don't know anything about who you were talking about. Just saw two cowering nobles about to get the axe. So, you saved them? Yeah, so what? The last you saw them, you were sure it was their end. But Ramos helped them while you just ran away. He didn't even stop to help anyone else. It's just contrary to what you said before about helping the world. They look rich enough that it was worth my time. So that you got paid? Well, you just shot my way. Alright. What was Ramos really thinking? What truly drove him forward? He said he did things for money, but for some reason you almost felt as though that was just a cover. He was so much like your father in many ways, stern, hard-headed, stubborn, strong. But as you truly got to know them, you found that behind that rocket exterior, there was somebody else living inside. Kind of like an egg. What? Nothing. Well, whatever. Let's get moving before they wake up. Ramos turned his back and started to walk off, leaving the unconscious assassin still there. You're not going to finish them off? I told you already. I don't care. If you want to be their executioner, then put that pretty sword to good use then. They might have been tough, but even they won't get up from that for at least a few weeks. If I'm really lucky, they won't be able to even move for a few months without crutch. You put your hand down onto your blade and thought about it. They had likely killed so many on their rampage throughout the city. If they were to get up, then who knew if they would continue? You were about to release your blade when Ramos put a hand down to stop you. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Can't you tell? I was only joking. The last thing I wanted to tell Leo is that you had to kill someone. You wouldn't be able to sleep after doing something like that, let alone live with yourself. You don't think I could do it? I know you're kind. If you were to kill someone, you would likely go insane. That's usually how murdering psychopaths are born. From sweet, innocent little souls like yourself corrupted by the harshness of the world. Of course, You would never do it unless it was a life or death situation. So don't kill yourself. You will probably just walk over there, wait for the store to stop part way. Maybe even cry and throw up a little when you realize there were just some things you can't commit to. You're right, maybe I won't be able to do it. But if they get back up again, they will just go on they'll just go on killing more people. I can't let that happen. I have to protect my people somehow. I know your heart is in the right place, but your hand ain't. Anyway, we need to get going. The objective is you anyway, so they will likely leave once they have found that you are no longer here. The streets were quiet and deserted, food stalls and merchant shops left open and abandoned. It looked as though everyone had just vanished into smoke. What had happened to your city? This was one of the business areas, and now there was no one here. No yelling, no haggling, not even a mouse scurried in the gutter. You would find whoever planned this assassination, cool whatever it was, and made them pay. If they wanted war, then the hundreds of years of peace that Yasin had achieved would finally come to an end. Hold. Raymond's arm stretched out, and you gently bumped into it. Hold. Keep quiet. He glanced around carefully, his ears twitching to sounds you couldn't hear. But soon you could smell it, the foul stench that spoke to you of danger. You raised it, you were the only one who could smell it, though. Even Ramos would have made a comment about it. Take cover behind that bell. Don't move. Don't make a sound. And don't leave until I get you. More of them are coming? Just go. You huffed but followed his instructions and stood behind a set of bells. Like clockwork, two soldiers arrived. The dark mist that wrapped around them began to blanket the area. Raymond didn't flinch at that. Were you really the only one to see this anomaly? Or was everyone just ignoring it? The police likely knew what was going on, but you didn't have time to go out and see. If not him, then maybe a doctor might have some kind of answer. But the last thing you wanted to be told was that you were going crazy. Fuck me. When sumo soldiers showed up, you grew worried. This time you weren't as confident in his strength. While he did manage to take care of the blade before, he still looked exhausted. Something seemed different about this set of assassins that had appeared in his new sword. Rather than them rushing forward like mindless killers, they started to circle the wino until they had him fully surrounded. This really is not my day. Rain was crouched low, anticipating when they would strike, but they calmly waited. Had this been any other group of soldiers, there would be no cause for concern, but they had already proven how dangerous they were. One wrong move would prove fatal, and as he cautiously turned his head, ears, and eyes, you could tell he knew just what sort of predicament he was in. This might be one fight that he wouldn't be able to hold back. One where he might actually have to kill. Ramos kept his guard up even when they stopped. If they couldn't force him to attack and make a fatal mistake, then the only other option would be for them to go on the fence. You tensed up, they were sure to strike soon, and Ramos would have to be well prepared to take on four swords coming at him from all directions. So y'all just gonna stand there, or are we gonna have a rough fight? This wasn't the time for him to act tough and show off. Did he even realize that this wasn't like the Coliseum matches? Did he always forget about the fight with the assassin before? Was he going insane, realizing just how screwed he was? Somehow he managed to smile in the face of danger. Hey kid, I think you'll like this move. Yep, he definitely lost his mind. The assassins gripped their blade tighter and bent at the knees. It was a stance you were familiar with. Leandro's used it on you. One more. Leandro's used it on you. On more than one occasion, you could never dodge it, block it, or deflect it. Ramos was facing 4 beastmen who knew that technique and immediately jumped out from hiding to warn them. Ramos twisted around like a whirlpool, narrowly dodging each of their attacks while delivering and throwing painful punches in return. Perhaps he wasn't so insane after all, though he doubted something like that would work again. As powerful as his punches were, the assassins weren't ready to back down just yet. They got back onto their feet, slightly limping, and went back in seconds. They came at him like pack animals, relentlessly striking when his back was turned and wondering why he wasn't about to retaliate. While it seemed as though the assassins didn't possess the same humane strength as the last ones, their speed was denoted. In another life, they could have been world-renowned dancers as they maneuvered the battlefield as though they were gliding on ice. It was a miracle that Ramos was holding his own, but he needed to finish this quickly. Every punch and kick that he missed was wasted energy. It would only be a matter of time before the minor cuts he was taking from the blades would turn into deadly gases. Your feet shifted on the cobblestone, your body tense, you were itching to move. Why hadn't he asked for help? If not from you, then from someone. Was it his pride? Damn that if it's just going to get him killed. An assassin darted forward, blade pointed out like a javelin. He ground your teeth. The situation looked dire, even though he told you to wait. Does he need help? Ramos wouldn't ask for help, and you knew it. Even if he was thrown on the floor bleeding out and taking his final breath. He leaped over the barrel and was head first to the fray. Ramos' eyes glanced at you for a moment, and he only was able to mutter out a slight grunt before he was dodged and an incoming attack. He was just hopeful that you weren't going to be too much of a distraction for him. The assassin came in fast and you lifted your swords up to block. Saying that he was strong was an understatement. You nearly lost your footing when your blades collided for the power behind the swing. The assassin pushed Dance forward, the claw-like fingers of his gauntlet reaching out to tear your face. He dropped down low, just narrowly dodging a strike, each swing from his blade so close that it comes your hair. As he passes you, given the perfect counterattack, you kick out with your feet and connect with Sin, toppling him to the floor. Both of your blades fall off loose and it becomes a mad race to rearm yourselves. A salt pain runs down your leg and as the assassin snaps onto you, the salt steel tips of his gauntlet already digging deep and drawing blood. You wrestle in his grasp, tossing and turning as he drags you back to him. You dare take a look back at your captive and see his lifeless black eyes. It was as though you were peering into a chasm that dropped down further than the pits of hell themselves. Fear overtakes reason as you struggle even harder to get free. Kicking and flailing with all your might, despite each hit landing squarely in the assassin's face, he refuses to let go, his gauntlet only digging even deeper. He opens his mouth as if to take a bite, and you shove your foot into his teeth. Finally, you feel a slight reprieve from minutes of wicked force. You take his head once more for an extra measure, then crawl away. He had only a moment to breathe before another obstacle hindered your escape. A looming shadow crept over you, and there stood another attacker. Arms held high in blades at its zenith. The sun's harsh light enveloped the executioner into a golden halo, and and you knew your fate. In the clips engulfed the sun's radiance, and the shadow stretched far and wide, dwarfing the henchmen. The man was lifted higher and higher, his sword fell, and he breathed in the air like a worm in a bird's beak. You only caught a glimpse of a horn before you were told to stay down. In the next second, the beastman was yelling, twirling around with savage speed. He slammed into numerous others. Bodies flew in all directions, colliding into walls, through windows, and into crates and bells. The assassin was turned into little more than a makeshift weapon himself, and were this not a fight for your life, it might have been comedic. Raymond certainly knew how to put on a show. As soon as the rhino batted the final knight into a fruit stand and tossed it, rubbing aside like a rag, or more like a fruit. All the assassins looked to be completely knocked out. Raymond's turn and stood above him, as opposed as ever. Damn it, I told you to stay hidden. The large rhino cracked his knuckles and reached down a hand to help you up. But I do have to admit, you seem to know how to handle yourself in a battle, so what at least? Good to know you're not too much of a pansy to pick up a sword and fight back, even if I didn't really need the help. You dusted yourself off and took a quick glance back at Ramus's handiwork. You don't know why you were even impressed. You had seen him deal with problems like this before in the arena. Thanks, I think. Despite the records the Ramus did on the assassins, a few of them still move a bit slowly. You moved your leg slightly, and then the pain came as a slight burst of red squirted out from around your ankle. You fell to the floor and cradled your wound. I didn't think he managed to dig his nails in so deep. Before you had a chance to look at yourself, Ramus was already upon you, wrapping one of his hands around your leg to examine it. He squeezed it and you flinched. Hey, that really hurts. It's bad, but nothing you won't die from. Leandros will probably still kill me for it, though. Rainbows tore off a sizable piece of your pants and used it like gaze around your wound. Hey, what? Those were expensive. Yeah, and you're a prince. You got the money. Just buy some new ones. Oh, right. We need to get something for it, though, to keep it from getting infected. Do you think you can still run? I don't know. You picked yourself up off the ground and started to limp. The pain was enough to make you give up and you fell back down. All right, then. Upsy daisy. Rainbow walked over to you and quickly lifted you up into his arms. He brought you close to his warm chest until you could hear his heart beat. What? You're lighter than you look. I can walk by myself. Enough of the bravado. I can see how bad it looks. I'll have to carry you the rest of the way. There are still a lot of those assassins around, and I can't keep fighting them forever. Besides, even without your injury, you're slow. Are all you nobles this out safe? I'm sorry. Can't really blame you. If I had money and servants to do all my biddings, I too wouldn't mind getting fat and out of shape. Well, let's get going. I'm gonna stop right here. All this bird chirping noise. It's just annoying. Got a lot of birds chirping outside my windows. I probably can hear it. Just gotta stop right here. Alright, so the coup happened. So I think Caton is now the king, technically. Since the priest took the crown off of the king's head, I think he put on Caton's head, I guess. But anyway, if the priest put the crown on Caton's head, that would symbolize him being king. So anyway, so just like that, the kingdom is in turmoil. And this coup or whatever happened, I think whoever planned it, they had this kind of like this mist, and somehow this mist can corrupt people. Could it be related to madness? Because like in the lore, it talks about all the madness, and maybe that's what's causing it. Like, but instead of what it says here, like when it occurs randomly, maybe somebody is able to control it to the point where they can actually control people and do their bidding. I'm not sure, but the the guards, the royal guards, they were corrupted, and they went against the people they were supposed to protect. They went against the king and Caton and in the city. So so I'm gonna when I made a choice, I picked Ramos. So we're gonna be with Ramos for now, and in that part where we pick whether to kill the person or to spare the assassin. I mean, and obviously we spare the assassin. We don't want to just kill people mindlessly. But I did read the part where the opposite, where we kill the assassin, and Ramos scolds you harshly for it, and he says that he's against killing, and he doesn't like killing, and he's more like in the sports. Like he fight for sport. He doesn't fight to kill. He's you know in that apparently he killed somebody himself one time before, and that really sickened him. So he's very much against killing. And Caden, in that choice, wanted to kill the assassin because he believed that by killing the assassin won't kill any more people. And Ramos was against that idea. Like, he was against it. He just didn't want killing, unless you had no choice. Like if it was a life or death situation, but he's very much against killing. So yeah, that's what would have happened if you picked that other choice. Instead, I decided to spare the assassin. So all right, so we're going to continue, and we're going to reunite with Leandros and Casero, and we're going to figure out what's going on now in the kingdom and what happened to Caden's father, if he's still alive or not, in the status of the city and everything. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.